Hi, welcome to Dialed In. I'm Don Knabe, Los Angeles County Supervisor for the 4th District. I'm pleased to welcome you back to another segment of Dialed In. Our goal here, with the good help of our friends from Charter Communications, is to tell you more about Los Angeles County and the issues which impact your life every day. Today, I'd like to talk about the local economy. We hear a lot about the federal budget, sequestration cuts, partisan bickering at the federal level. But here in Los Angeles County, things have really been tough. Across California, unfortunately, we were hit especially hard during the recession. And I know a lot of people are still struggling and looking for work. But we are starting to see some signs that things are getting a little bit better. So let's dive into it a bit more. Today, I'm pleased that we have representatives from the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation, the Los Angeles Business Journal, to talk about the overall economic situation here in the county. I'd then like to talk with the folks from FilmLA about one of the most important industries that we have in the region. In fact, Los Angeles County is synonymous with it, and that's the entertainment business. I hope you will enjoy the show. Welcome back to Dialed In. We'll start today's program with two terrific guests. First is Bill Allen. He's the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation, and Charles Crumpley, who is the editor of the Los Angeles Business Journal. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Bill and Charles, I'd like to sort of start with a big picture state of the economy here in the county. We have obviously been through a very, very significant recession, been hit dramatically, not only in Los Angeles County, but the state of California. And maybe, Bill, let's start with you. And are we seeing some positive movements?
We are. We're seeing some good signs of growth, albeit slow growth. We're out of the downtrend, we're out of the stable bottom of the curve, and we're on the upward climb, but it's a modest upward climb. Good news on the unemployment front is, as of March 2013, the county's back to just single-digit unemployment rates. We got back to 9.9%, going in the right direction. The economy has grown fairly well in recent quarters. We're a little concerned about the next 2 quarters because of the potential impacts of sequestration and the payroll tax increase. That may moderate growth a little more in the second and third quarter this year than we expect to see at the first quarter, and frankly, we think the fourth quarter will begin to pick up again. But most of the sectors in the LA County economy are adding jobs. We added about 90,000 jobs over the last year. And in a number of the key sectors, really only government and to a very small extent manufacturing are still seeing a modest reduction in jobs. Most of the other sectors are adding jobs again in LA County. We got a ways to go, but we're actually adding jobs at a faster rate than the rest of the nation.
Well, that's good news. I mean, from the county's perspective, obviously we've seen a slight bump up, both in sales tax as well as in property tax. I mean, not money that you're going to run out and spend, hopefully. We can stay disciplined on this. But as Charles, as it relates to maybe investment kinds of opportunity, you've seen a lot of investment opportunities, or people or businesses investing here in our economy?
We are seeing a little bit of that. We have some anecdotal evidence, of course, of that. Lending activity is up a fair amount, and in construction activity, it's really up. I think it's up 100 and more than doubled from a year ago in the most recent month that we ran numbers, and we're seeing a lot of investment, particularly in, the big exciting story is so-called Silicon Beach. We're seeing a lot of investment on the west side in Santa Monica, Playa Vista, that area. So we are seeing really hopeful signs there. I looked at some numbers. We run stats in the Business Journal every week, and I went back 5 years ago and looked at the numbers from there just to compare them to where they are now. And 5 years ago is about when we were heading into the downturn. Unfortunately, we're not back to where we were back then. Of course, we have we have about 6% fewer people employed today than 5 years ago, and I think the number of people looking for a job in LA County is up almost double from 5 years ago. So we still have a ways to go.
Looking for a job, versus having a job.
Right.
You mentioned, which is obviously good news to get down to single digit, because we have been so far behind here in Los Angeles County and the state as it relates to unemployment. Do you think a lot of that's just due to people dropping out of the job market and not looking, or do you think it's a positive sign that we're down to single digits?
That certainly occurred over the last few years, but actually, if you look at the year-over-year numbers, the labor force participation is actually up as of March compared to a year ago, just modestly. So we believe that as companies start hiring again, people will have the confidence to re-enter the labor force, and we'll see that labor force participation rate go up as the unemployment rate continues to go down. Now, there's some very large investments that are being made here in the county. The major studios. Recently, the county approved the NBC Universal Universal expansion plan, which is a multi-billion-dollar project to add to that studio. Disney, ABC in the North County area is adding studio facilities. Paramount is upgrading their Hollywood lot. These are billions of dollars worth of projects in that industry. Hospitals are investing to improve their facilities. Metro, the ports of
Metro,
LA,
we've got a
Long
lot
Beach.
going on in Metro.
Exactly. So there's public
Probably the
infrastructure
largest
investment
public works
as well as
project in America right now.
absolutely right. $30–40 billion worth of improvements across the metro system, really stimulating to the.
Well, and even your
economic
recent
sectors.
trip with the governor and that over to China, and we've got, I think, coming up here in a week or so, the groundbreaking of the BYD plant.
Absolutely. Here in LA County will be
Right.
the first Chinese vehicle assembly plant on American soil, right here in LA County. BYD, a battery and motor vehicle company out of Shenzhen, China, will be opening their new assembly facility in
Right,
Lancaster.
and guess who's the first buyer of those buses? Is the city
Lo-
of Long
City
Beach.
of Long Beach.
Long Beach Transit, and that was a little political battle. Got a little tenuous down there at the end of that particular situation.
But I give them a lot of credit from ordering from a firm that's going to create local jobs, because that is intended to be an assembly facility to serve all of our public transit districts, not only here in this area but throughout the country, but from a base in what is still the manufacturing capital of America. LA County still has more manufacturing jobs than any county in America, and we need to be vigilant.
And
to
we've
keep
had
it
all
that
this
way.
opportunity, you know, in the aerospace. We have plenty of facilities that could be used. I mean, as a member of the Metro Board, I mean, I always look at it as buses and trains. Why can't we be building those right here in Los Angeles County in these kinds of facilities? Just what about the real estate market? I mean, you know, I know, like I said, we're seeing a little bump in some property taxes,
Right.
but is it in pockets or is it across the county? Both either on the commercial side or the residential side. What is it, Gerald? I mean, you guys are really paying close attention. You're writing a lot of news about that right now.
Right. Yeah, we do. On the commercial side, we're seeing a lot of activity, as I said, on the west side, and Hollywood. I think the vacancy rate in Hollywood is the lowest in the metro area. Santa Monica is also very low. But countywide, I think the vacancy rate, office vacancy rate, is 17.6% in the last quarter, which is where we were 1 year earlier, and it's well above where we were, maybe 5 points above where we were 5 years ago. So we still have a ways to go in office
Is that the
vacancy.
downtown market or?
That's countywide.
Countywide.
Right, and it's, yeah, 17.6%.
Where are we downtown?
Downtown is I think that's about 14%, I think, and I could look that up and get it to you. But yeah, and on the residential side, we're seeing, as you know, as everybody knows, I guess, we're seeing a big decrease in foreclosures. I think it was down 51% in the first quarter and statewide, and foreclosures here are way down. And prices are, of course, going up. The service we use said that the median price in LA County for a single-family home was $395,000 in the last month. We're poised to go over 400,000 maybe in the next month. That would be the first time in almost 5 years that we've seen median prices in the county above 400.
Wow. I mean, well, on the other side of it, you know, one of the things we obviously watch is the foreclosure market in the county, because that, you know, there's a lot in the bank out there that may affect whether our property taxes go up or down as it relates to a revenue source for both the counties and the cities. And so we're seeing, you know, while there's still a depletion, there's still a lot of potential foreclosures in North County that could impact the economy as well too. Obviously, it's improving. You know, there's certain pockets where you barely get a house up, for sale sign up and it's gone. Others, it's taking some time. So it does, at least when you go, and I'm like you, we're around a lot of business people, a lot of real estate people. Most of them are smiling right now. They've had a frown on their face for the last 4 or 5 years, so they're not very happy people, but they're doing a good job now. Another economic engine in my district that I know are important to both of you, and that's the ports. Both the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach, and those numbers are up, am I right?
They are. They're back to in excess of 14 million containers. We measure these 20-foot equivalent unit containers that for the LA County area represent about 40% of all the containerized cargo coming into this nation come in through our two ports, which are the #1 and #2 ports in North America. They've been relatively flat at this 14 million for the last couple of years. The tough year was 2009 when it got down below 12 million containers. This first quarter of 2013, we're up about 5% over the first quarter of last year, so we expect some continued growth in that. But that activity depends on the health of the national and global economy. The export activity is based on the health of the economy economies outside the U.S. buying our products, and the import economy is based on the recovering American economy. And both are recovering, the American economy and even more quickly some of the emerging Pacific Rim economies. So we expect those numbers to continue to increase, and it's important because they support so many jobs in the region, and the ports are also investing billions of dollars at each of the Port of Long Beach and
huge
LA
investments, and then obviously they create infrastructure issues. They're also going to mean jobs and better transportation, movement of goods that we have to deal with here.
On dock rail, near dock rail, absolutely
all
right.
of it. It's all a battle, all about CEQA and EIRs. Yeah. The other piece is you, like me, talk to a lot of business folks. What do you think government can do to sort of assist business right now? We know we're making some positive movement. There's got to be something we can do a little bit better.
Well, you mentioned CEQA and EIRs. It's the uncertainty, the delay, the cost, the complexity of getting things done in the private sector as relates to complying with the public sector. That's one of the most important things government could do at all levels, federal, state, and local level, is try and simplify the process so our businesses can get back to doing the business they need to do in a very globally competitive economy.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I think I'm not a big guy for government incentives, but I do think the state could do more to incentivize the film production industry, because that's one area that's really being poached, of course, by other states. And as Bill said, I think if government could do something to reduce basically taxes and regulation, make things more predictable, make it so that a permit doesn't take 18 months to get, that kind of thing, it certainly does. It certainly would help in a big way. And of course, the big tax in LA City is the gross receipts tax. Everybody you talk to hates that gross receipts tax.
Bill, Charles, I really appreciate you both taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today, and thank you for your observations. Thank you for the ongoing support of the business community and to the Journal. Great coverage for, from an economic indicators to whatever, and you let Bill and I pontificate in the Journal every once in a while. We appreciate that and appreciate the support of the community. So,
Don, thank you for the county's support of the LA County Economic Development Corporation. We couldn't do the work we do bringing and retaining jobs to the people of Los Angeles County if it wasn't for the county's long history of support for this corporation. So thank you.
It's been a long time.
It has been.
Gave the seed money. Thanks again.
Thank you, Don.
Bill,
Thank you, Don.
Charles, thank you very much. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Dialed In. This section of our show is called In the Sandbox, where we look around the country for examples of bipartisanships. Normally in this section, you would see a clip about levels of government working together. But this month, I'd like to focus on the events of April 15th, the Boston Marathon. What happened that April day during the Boston Marathon was a senseless and cowardly act aimed at shattering our feeling of security. My heart still breaks for those who lost their lives that day and for all those who were physically and emotionally injured. I was personally touched as a dear friend, Mr. John Odom, was 15 feet from the blast, who was there to do no more than to see his daughter run the race. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family and all the families as they not only fight for their lives, but the rehabilitation ahead of them. Marathons are supposed to be events where we cheer on our family and friends as they try to accomplish something extraordinary, not places where we have to worry about the unthinkable. But out of this horrific event came true scenes of patriotism and camaraderie. Runners finishing the race and running to the hospital to donate blood. Spectators jumping out of the stand to help those in need. In the days after the tragedy, the New York Yankees decided to honor the city of Boston by playing Sweet Caroline during their game. Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline is a Boston Red Sox tradition, and the Yankees organization opted to put aside their bitter rivalry and show their unity with the city of Boston. Take a look.
The New York Yankees and Tom's Boston Red Sox are bitter rivals. Last night, though, the rivalry was put aside in a tribute to Boston a day after the bombings. The Yankees copied a Fenway Park tradition. They actually played the Neil Diamond song, Sweet Caroline.
Yeah, really great moment last night.
Yeah, Boston fans have been singing along to Sweet Caroline since 2002. Last night it was the Yankee fans doing the singing, and some wore Red Sox jerseys even.
If Yankee fans and Red Sox fans can come together and unite under a cause, believe me, so can the rest of this country. Moments of catastrophe sometimes bring out the best in the human spirit. These moments, no matter how horrific they are, tear down the barriers that divide us. Deep underneath all of our issues, we are all Americans. God bless America. Welcome back to Dial In. My next guest is the president of FilmLA, Paul Audley. FilmLA is responsible for coordinating and processing permits for on-location filming for TV shows, movies, and commercials throughout the entire Los Angeles County.
Paul, thanks again for being here. What is the current state of the film business here in Los Angeles County?
Well, we still probably do the most production days of any other place in the world, but it's about half what it used to be and a lower economic value. And what we're seeing is the competition from 37 other states and foreign countries continues to eat away at the highest value production from Los Angeles.
Well, you posted some pretty good numbers in April. Is the production up here in Los Angeles County? Is it, a little blip or a little bump? Is it, are we being optimistic, or are we just sort of hanging and fighting the fight?
We would love to see the trend continue upward. We had a good first quarter. Most of that first quarter positive news was around the fact that we had a return of pilot programming, which last year virtually left the state. So we saw some good numbers there, but unfortunately when you drill down to what's actually being filmed, those numbers represent a huge increase in still photography, which, while it's great to have, is a very low economic value for the region. And most of what we're doing now in feature film work is mini or micro budget feature films. So while we've seen an increase there and an overall increase of about 17% of permits versus last year, we're not seeing the economic return that we'd like to see with that production.
For the bigger productions.
Right.
I mean, I read the article about the significant increase in the still photography, which is still, it's business is business.
Yeah.
And obviously that's an incentive to bring, that might lead to, something else, but at least we are starting to see some pieces come back together. The other thing is when, and I hear this all the time, when you're out on the stump like myself, you're giving speeches, you're talking to people, everybody thinks about the industry is in the Disney and the Paramounts and the Sonys and all that. Can you sort of give us some ideas of the number of jobs and the smaller pieces of that big pie?
Sure.
That really have a dramatic impact on our economy here in Los Angeles County?
Well, it's the critical part of it, and it's the point that we try to drive home all the time, that it's not about the major producers and the high-end celebrities. It's about 6,000 small businesses that are totally dependent on the film industry, and that's roughly 3 times as many as you see Starbucks around the region, which gives you an idea of how many there really are. And about 500,000 jobs in Los Angeles depend directly on this film industry. And these are good jobs, good paying jobs, but they're not what people see or think about the film industry of the mega celebrity numbers.
And a lot of them are just independent type of folks. I mean, they're not part of a big company or a bigger company. They have a special niche in the industry. Is that correct?
Everything from small garbage haulers who go on location and pick up the trash, to caterers and florists and costumers, and the Nordstroms in Glendale makes its profit off the film industry buying clothes from them. So it's a pretty amazing business, and it has pieces in virtually every neighborhood in the region.
Well, as it relates to FilmLA and your operation, what does FilmLA do? How do they assist, or how do they assist in bringing a production, or once you get that in the permit process? How does that work?
Well, as you know, the county and city merged their offices into what is now FilmLA about 17 years ago. And so our main job is to make everything as seamless as possible for the film industry. And so that means we do most of the legwork of running between the industry and the city government or the county government to make things happen. But a lot of people don't know we have a production planning group whose main function is to help those filmmakers get their work done in a way that's as least expensive as possible, and help to avoid areas that currently are unfriendly or having difficulty, and give them advice about how to get through the process. And we also created, at the request of the county and city, a website called Loco Scout, which provides them with detailed information and photographs about all of the county and city facilities available for filming, which helps a lot. It prevents them having to go out and scout, take their own photographs. So we're doing everything we can to help the industry realize that it's easy to work here, working through FilmLA.
The other piece, obviously, filming can be disruptive to a community, so what do you tell the folks when they think it's a nuisance?
Well, the first thing is we recognize it can be a problem, and that there is a disruption when a film company comes into a neighborhood. But our efforts are to explain the economic value and the fact that some of their own neighbors are probably employed as a result of that film company being out that day working somewhere in greater Los Angeles. So we spend a good deal of time explaining why it's important, but we also offer services. We're available 24/7. So if something comes up in the neighborhood that's disturbing, we're there to help the neighborhood resolve the problem any time of day or night. Holidays, doesn't matter. We always have someone on call to work on that. And for larger scale projects, we require surveys of the neighborhood to find out what the concerns are so we can address them in advance. So on the balance, we have very few serious complaints ever come up in a year about filming because we're able to resolve them as they're happening.
Well, and I remember a number of years ago under Governor Wilson, I was an appointee to the California Film Commission, and used to get a lot more calls than I do now, but still we get constituent calls from various areas because obviously in the 4th District we have a lot of filming opportunities with Beachfront, Marina Del Rey, the ports, I mean you name it. We have a lot of opportunities for filming. I've always found the industry very cooperative, but it is a big issue, and the fact that you now take these surveys I think are important because not only are there opportunities for some of these families to make some money off a filming opportunity like that, but I don't think really anyone really understands the economic impact for our area. And in your operation, obviously that's important. I think coming together, as you know, at the county level, we worked very hard to try to be partners in all of this. We're going through some fee things right now, and production kinds of opportunities. But at the end of the day, the industry is such an important part of our economy here, and not only in Los Angeles County, but the entire state of California.
Sure.
So over the last decade, we've seen a lot of, as I was talking there, a lot of the filming and kinds of opportunities move to other cities and counties and states. What kind of incentives are being offered out there? I think that would be good for the viewer to know as well too, because it's not just and it's not just because they move because they want to move, but the incentives are rather significant.
The incentives are major, and we have 37 states now offering cash incentives to the film industry of 25 to 30% of eligible production costs to leave California. So they have this sort of big lure. And what we've found is that many of the studios now, and even some of the independent producers, first look, where are the incentives available, not how easy is it to film in California. And so we're doing less than half the feature production we used to do in California now. And when you look at our major competitor, New York, always been the major competitor, they have 4 times the money available to the film industry that California has, in a much broader based incentive available to more kinds of production. And the mayor who stands up and screams he's going to be the center of the entertainment universe in this century. So we have stiff competition, and they've recognized the high value of the productions and film, and they're working hard to take it from California.
Because it's no different than the jobs issue that we face here as a state. It's not just because of our great weather anymore. We have to be competitive. What kinds of things, say, I mean, you talked to me, but maybe our audience would be interested. What kind of things can local governments do to incentivize keeping the filming here in Los Angeles County?
Well, given the economics right now, you probably can't do what New York City did, which was add 5% to the state incentive. But things that can be done and are being done are including making government facilities free for filming. Of course, you still have to pay staff, but not charging a fee rate to come into the county properties or the city properties. The state makes beaches free. Those kinds of things are very helpful. Taking something like the Model Film Ordinance, which FilmLA, the California Film Commission, and LAEDC helped to rewrite this year, and making that standard, because one of the things that makes it easier for the industry is knowing what to expect when they get from city to city in this region. And right now it's a whole hodgepodge. It's kind of a crazy question.
Well, the whole fee thing, I remember my days on the city council and making some issue out of the filming fees to sort of lower it, to stabilize it, because it was just an off-the-wall fee. It really made no sense. But at the end of the day, that's been the big issue here, is the multitude with 88 cities and unincorporated areas, what the different fees are and how you protect the industry.
Right, and I think it is making it valuable to stay by making it as inexpensive as possible and making it as uniform as possible, and that's really what FilmLA's goal has been at the direction of the county and the city, is to try to get that uniformity out there, make it something that the industry understands and can expect, which makes them much more confident about staying.
Well, I appreciate your time here today, and I appreciate the work of FilmLA. I mean, it's been a 17-year battle to bring everybody together, but at the end of the day, your industry is such a vital part of our economy. So I appreciate you taking the time to come visit with us today.
Thanks, Supervisor. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
When a child is born, it should be the happiest time in one's life. But for some, it's just too difficult to handle. Think before you do the unthinkable. There is an option. Don't abandon your baby.
In this segment, I'd like to tell you about the stuff that really drives me nuts, the stuff that just gives government a bad name. But first, let's start with some good news. Los Angeles County recently unveiled its 2013-14 budget, totaling nearly $24.7 billion. The proposed budget, which by state law we must balance, does not include any cuts in services or employee layoffs. And for the first time since the start of the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, we do not have to use reserves to plug the shortfalls. We've weathered the economic storm better than most because we put away money during the good times. At other levels of government, they went on a spending spree making financial commitments that weren't realistic or sustainable in the long term. It's like when you're a kid and you got your allowance, you just couldn't wait to run down to the candy store, right? Well, you know that's no way to run a home, a business, and certainly not a way to operate a government. So yes, while we are seeing some improvement in the economy, I am very concerned about the impacts on our budget of the Affordable Care Act, as well as realignment, which is the state sending its prisoners down to us here in the county. We just don't know the impact of all that yet. So in the meantime, we must remain disciplined, continue to operate within our means, and you can't just cross your fingers and start spending money you don't have. So I guess that's my let's not screw it up message for the month. Thanks again for tuning in to Dialed In with Don Knabe. As always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and I hope you learned a little bit about the county's efforts to boost our local economy and encourage filmmaking to return and stay here in Los Angeles County. Here is your "they said what" moment, straight from a recent press briefing at the White House. Rapper Jay-Z and his wife, Beyonce, as you know, recently took a trip to Cuba, and questions began to arise about how they were able to gain clearance to travel to the country. So following a week of speculation, the rapper released a song to address the controversy, and in it made reference to President Obama giving him special permission to travel to Cuba. This particular lyric was brought to the attention of reporters, and during a press briefing, one of them asked Jay Carney, the president's press secretary, if what was said by Jay-Z in that song was actually true. Take a look.
Rap today, I know the other day you said that Treasury was the one that cleared their trip. He suggested that he got White House clearance and that he personally spoke with the president. I'll just quote, I turned Havana into Atlanta, boy from the hood, I got White House clearance. Obama said, quote, chill, you gonna get me impeached. You don't need this expletive anyway, chill with me on the beach.
I guess nothing rhymes with Treasury. It's a song, Donovan. The president did not communicate with Jay-Z over this trip.
Wow. With all that is going on, we're now quoting Jay-Z lyrics at a press briefing at the White House. Though I'll admit, I've quoted Jay-Z before in a few graduation speeches. And trust me, there are a lot harder departments within the county to rhyme with rather than the Treasury. Try the Quality and Productivity Commission. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next month with a brand new episode of Dialed In.